Hi everyone, I'm Dina with Mills Family Gardening. We live in North Texas, Zone 8A. Today is March 23rd. And in this video, I would like to show you the importance of pruning peach trees. If you look at this peach tree, you will notice that a lot of blossoms are closer toward the upper part of the tree. But if you look at the lower part of the tree, you will see a lot of green leaves, but not a lot of blossoms. There were some flowers, they faded, but it didn't have as many flowers on the lower part as it has in the upper part. This tree is relatively young, and about 2 years ago it started growing vigorously, and so it started growing the lower part of it. Back then we did not have all the upper part. So in 2023, which was 2 years ago, it started growing the lower part, and then last year in 2024 all the lower branches were covered in blossoms. And last year we had so many peaches from this one tree. We made peach jam, we ate a ton of peaches. Considering that it was a very young tree, it produced a lot of fruit. In fact, last year we made a video on how we fertilize this tree for free. We don't buy any fertilizers for it. And in that video, you can see that the lower part of the tree was loaded with fruit. Even the lowest branches, like this one, they were falling down to the ground and they were loaded with fruit. The branches did not break. I did not thin out the fruit. Squirrels got some of the fruit, but we got most of the fruit. And now this year, we see that the lower part has barely any flowers, and all the flowers are concentrated in the upper part of the tree. And the reason is that peach trees are very different from most trees like apple, apricot, or pear trees, for example. Peach trees produce fruit only on 1-year-old branches. In other words, a branch started growing last year in the spring. It grew all throughout the season, and now this year this branch will be covered in blossoms and it will be producing peach fruit for us. In February of this year, I pruned this tree just to manage the size of it because it was getting so tall and so wide we couldn't walk around it. But I left some branches just to see what they would do in the spring. For example, this branch started growing in the spring of 2023. It grew all throughout the year, and then last year this branch had flowers and fruit, and that pertains to a lot of lower branches. Now in the spring of last year, the upper part of the tree started growing vigorously because we were using our free fertilizer, and it's gotten so big, it's gotten so tall and so wide that I had to prune a lot of it back in February. Now a lot of new growth that started growing in the spring of last year, this year it's covered in blossoms, and all these blossoms, well, not all of them, most of them will turn into peaches. The branches that are older than 1 year old, they could still produce fruit if we keep them on the tree. And this branch will start growing new side branches, and these side branches next year will grow flowers and fruit. So some people might think, well, we don't need to prune a peach tree because it will keep growing new branches every year and there will be new flowers. Well, that's partially true. But if we do that, then the peach tree would get so big, so wide, the branches would be so long, the tree would be unmanageable and a huge size. So what do I do in this case? How do I deal with this branch? If you come closer, you can see that the branch on the other side of this larger branch is loaded with flowers, and they will turn into peaches. But this branch will keep growing, and then next year this new growth will produce flowers, but this will be mostly empty. But the new branches from here, they will grow and produce flowers next year also, but it will be a lot of mess. A lot of branches will be tangled, they won't get any sunlight, and the fruit won't be ripening fast enough. So for that reason, I would alternate branches. This year this branch is producing flowers and peaches for us, but this one is not. So back in February, I could have pruned this branch to the first or second bud, and then these buds would turn into new side branches, and then these side branches, they will be growing all throughout this year, and then next year they will be growing flowers and peaches. I'm not going to do the pruning now because it's too late in the season. The tree is sending sap everywhere, and if I prune the branch, it might attract some diseases or fungus. I can prune this tree in the summer because the hottest part of the summer and also late winter are the best times to prune trees. So I could come back in July or August and prune away this branch and other branches that I see don't bear any fruit. And then the new branch that would start growing from one of the buds would produce fruit next year. I mentioned earlier about the free fertilizer that we make for our trees. And this fertilizer is simply homemade compost. We mix kitchen scraps, eggshells that we grind in our coffee grinder. We mix some dried leaves, all compost, and all other organic material that we put in this pot or the lower pot. And then we mix it all, cover it with the old compost. I keep watering it, and all the compost tea that flows down from the drain holes goes down into the roots of the tree and feeds the tree and keeps it moist. And I like to have 2 compost pots going at the same time. So if you want your peach trees to produce a lot of fruit for you, make sure to prune them well in late winter or in the hottest part of summer, making sure to alternate between blossoming branches and non-blossoming branches. That way you will always have fruit-producing branches and then newer branches that will produce fruit for you next year. Well, that's all for today. I hope this video was helpful for you. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.